Good day to you, and welcome back to my channel. So, I decided that this channel is just gonna focus on things that are creepy, horror. So, I don't know, maybe in the future I'll decide to play some creepy games here or get back into things like creepypasta that has been here for ages now. Because originally I wanted this channel to be my main channel, but I decided it's better to just separate things for the algorithm because we love YouTube's algorithm. Anyways, I have another channel and I'm gonna put it up here. I'm also gonna put it linked below. I'm gonna talk about some random things there because I have a chaotic mind and I need to talk about things. But anyways, we're back again to another horror story, and this is coming from our all good friend Reddit. Okay, so this is the theme for this video is about dorm, and this one comes from Paranormal Encounters, and the username is called Mars1317, and this was posted 4 years ago. The title is called The Ghost Girl in Our Dorm. I have never quite been able to tell this story without confusing people. They often don't know why it was frightening, or they just assume we were drunken fools. But I figured something like this forum would be best. When I was a freshman in college, I shared a dorm room with one of my best friends of all time. We aren't gullible people, quite possibly even cynical, but we both admitted we're believers in paranormal occurrences. We have had few interactions with such occurrences, but it was always in dream form, except for one. As I said, we shared a dorm room. It was a typical weeknight, and we often stayed up late to talk with each other about girls, the future, life in general. We finally went to sleep around 1 a.m. Randomly, in the middle of the night, I have no idea what time, I woke up from my sleep. I thought I heard a girl's voice. It sounded like giggling. My friend had a few girlfriends at that time, so I thought maybe one of them was sleeping over. I asked him who was over there and if he wanted me to leave. He quickly sat up and looked at me. The giggling stopped. He explained that he was about to get up and leave because he also thought I was with someone. We looked at each other, first frustrated, then confused, and finally terrified. We lived in a dorm with the entire freshman class of boys. It was often very loud, but we suddenly became aware of the uncharacteristic loud, deafening silence that felt like it was engulfing us. We both nervously laughed about it and forced ourselves to go to sleep. Maybe that was a bad call, I don't know. Nothing else happened that night, but I'll never forget the sense of dread I felt for those tense few minutes. So this was 4 years ago, and then the OP commented again on his account, on this post and he said, "This was very long ago, but few things happened that year. My roommate often described a recurring dream where he would be biking through the woods and find an old children's plush toy which he said he was convinced was possessed by the feeling he got when he went near it. He would tell me he had that dream a couple of times a month. There was one night when we heard slamming in the room connected to ours, but the people in that room, our other good friends, had moved out that morning. Then there was a very strange occurrence where we have a very hazy memory of one night, an early teenage kid walking into our room and him asking where his friend was. We told him she wasn't here, but he wouldn't leave until we screamed, 'Get the hell out!' It is a very hazy memory, almost dreamlike, but we both have a vague recollection of it." And one of the commenters said, "Dreams or nightmares are the easiest way for spirit to get a message or point across because your brain is open and not closed off to things when awake. I see, hear, speak to the dead, and after 43 years of this, I don't jump to it being spirit unless I know 100% that it is. I wouldn't accept one giggle as a spirit. There are too many factors that are unknown. Maybe if you wanted to share more other things, then I could help a bit." Jesus Christ, I don't like things like hearing giggling. But I have mentioned before that I do believe in paranormal encounters. However, sometimes you have to find logical things about this. I only do that so I don't scare myself. I try to make sense of what's not making sense at the moment, especially when I am alone. Things just freaks me out whenever I hear things, especially when you're sleeping. If you hear a giggle, then you're probably having some what do you call that, like hallucination, but through auditory. However, the poster, the OP said here that his friend also heard it. So I guess there was something there. There was some little girl there. I don't know about you, but little girls, like in movies especially, is freaky. There's just something about them. I mean, I was a little girl once, and yes, I freaked out my cousins and everyone because I had a very long hair. And if you know the character Sadako, or like, you know, like that white lady, oof, it's freaking scary. It's it creeps me out thinking about it. But there's just something about little girl, like they should be innocent. However, there's just something so peculiar and creepy, especially if you know they have this ghostly characteristic, or just plain creepy is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, anyways, this is from Paranormal Encounters again, and it's from the OP Curious underscore Kitty 999. And this was from 1 year ago. By the way, if you do want to send some spooky stories, do send them my way. I will read it for you. Also, because I like to scare myself, so let me read some good stuff out here. Okay, so the title is called Spooky Incident at My Boarding School, number 1. You're telling me there's more? So this is my story, and you can rate me based on my narration style. I used to stay at a boarding school in Dublin, which was located at a very remote hill station. The boarding school was very old and it was there for a while. So the first incident happened when I was new there, and it had just been a month. The noise of somebody running around late at night wearing flip-flops started to start when I had just gone to bed and was about to fall asleep. I used to wake up and try to check who was making that noise, and thus far, I hadn't been able to catch the culprit. It used to happen every night in the girls' dorm. The dorm had an oval structure with one entry point and another exit point, and vice versa. I mostly used to hear a person running towards me from the south end of the dorm, and it was always anti-clockwise. I got fed up of that racket at one point, and I went to check who was making that noise. Everybody was snoring at that time of the night. I didn't find anybody who was awake that day in the girls' dorm. I had checked the whole dorm, the bathroom, the corridor, and I didn't find anybody there. It was dark and extremely cold. The girls' bathroom was the creepiest place in the girls' boarding school, and I even went there to check. I noticed that the noise had stopped altogether. I made my way to my bunk very carefully, and when I felt comfortable enough to fall asleep, that damned noise started again. Eventually, I had gotten used to that noise in such a way that I was able to sleep through it. Then I stopped hearing that noise altogether after a couple of months. I still can't figure out what it was. Honestly, that kind of made me laugh. That damned noise started again. Like, how annoying a ghost can you be? I think that would be me in the afterlife. I'm not gonna hunt everybody. I'm just gonna probably annoy them. I'll be like a cat, so I'll move stuff around. Like, you know, if you have a glass on your counter, I will slap that. Yeah, I'm gonna be a menace for sure if I become a ghost. It's more fun that way. I don't think I want to scare people, but I mean, that's the whole point of being a ghost. You scare people, but I don't want to do that. I want to be a menace. Because, I mean, if I'm a menace right now, being alive, yeah, I could get a fine or I'll get a ticket or like whatever, you know. But if you're a ghost, I can pretty much do what I want, right? So I'll be running around halls, and I'll probably, I'll do some orange cat behavior basically. Okay, so this one didn't really scare me, but I mean, it's okay. So another one from Paranormal Encounters, and the user is called Datura underscored rot. So the title is, Does anyone know of a human-like entities with a large red mouth? Oh my god. For context, I live in Southeast Asia, and this happened many years ago. I was about 9 when this happened. This was not my first experience with paranormal stuff, but it was the most unsettling. During my holidays, My parents sent me off to a short camp at an old school that has a dormitory built within its premises. We later found out the dorm was built near an old cemetery. Everything seemed normal until the evening. I made friends with the other kids there, and unfortunately, one of the girls staying at my dorm room, two bunk beds, four kids, had to leave as her grandma was in the hospital. This left the top bunk of my bed empty. I found it hard to sleep being anxious away from home, and was the last one awake in our room. It must have been around 2 a.m. when I started to feel really uneasy. It felt like the safety got sucked out of the room. I was laying down and facing the wall, so I turned around to see if anyone entered our room. Instead, I saw a pale face hanging down from the top of the bunk, staring at me. Jesus Christ. No. Okay. Um It's hard to remember all the details, but what stuck with me was its huge red mouth. It looked human except it had an abnormally large blood red mouth and it was smiling. Its eyes were wide with what I perceived as glee. The entity did not come any closer to me, but it stayed hanging over the bunk with that sick smile and started swaying. This made me scared to move past it as I sensed it did not have good intention. I had my phone with me, so I called my parents to come fetch me as I did not want to spend another day there. My phone's dial pad glitched a few times, but eventually I was able to contact them, and around 4 a.m., the camp leader moved me to another room. I had to stay the remaining 2 nights as it was part of their policy. Apparently, but the other 2 nights were peaceful. I spoke to the two people staying at my first room and they said they slept fine. I tried to search up what the entity could be but did not really find a conclusive answer. Does anyone have any theories? Edit. I spoke to my mom. She confirmed that the dorm was built on a former cemetery ground, not near a cemetery. Jesus Christ, honestly, when I was reading this, because I'm very visual, so things just pop in my head as I read. So I'm imagining exactly what the OP was saying, and the swaying really just freaked me out. So some of the redditors suggested it might be a jinn or a swang. And jinn is I'm not exactly sure which culture it's from, but aswang is from Philippines. I know that for sure. Aswang is this. I will put a picture here. It's kind of freaky, but it's basically a half woman. It's a woman for sure, but she can detach herself at night and have like wings of a bat, basically like a vampire. It's our version of vampire. Half of its body will stay somewhere safe, so nobody can find it, while the other half, which is the torso and the head and the wings, will go fly into the night and find victims that way. The only way you can defeat an aswang is to actually find its lower half and you put salt in it. So by the time because the reason for this is by the time the aswang actually goes down to reattach itself, they can't because there's salt there. So you know how salt is usually used for a bunch of things like warding off ghosts. So similar idea, you put salt on the lower half so they can't reattach themselves. And by the time the sunrise comes up, they'll be burning. Like they can't transform back into human because that's technically what aswang is. They live as a human being in the morning. And by the time it's at night, around sunset or maybe at like midnight, I don't know exactly, but like around at night they detach themselves. Oh my god. So that's freaky. So yeah, that's the story about dorms and that's the theme for this. Just so you know, by the way, I don't really read the stories beforehand, so I'm not sure what I'm reading. And that's the fun part. However, sometimes it's a hit or miss. Sometimes the stories are more intriguing than the others. But nonetheless, I do love to read things firsthand, so I have like the authentic reaction towards this. And like I mentioned, if you do have stories, do send them my way so I can read them for you. And if you have any pictures too, then send them my way too. I mean, I don't like creepy things, creepy pictures. But yeah, if you do have photos for that, or like videos or anything, then I'd be happy to put that up along with your story. And until then, I'll see ya.